Welcome back, students. Once again, this is Dr. Mercado speaking. I hope all of you are doing excellent. We are continuing with Chapter 4, which deals with income tax withholding. Okay, this is Accounting 1329, Payroll and Business Tax Accounting. Now, in this particular problem that we're going to be covering today, it is a long problem. Okay, so I find it that students get overwhelmed fairly easy. Please make sure that when you're working on these assignments, if you need to, you get up, you take a break, and then you continue. If you're doing the problem or you're having issues, step away a couple of minutes, eat something, watch a little bit of TV, whatever works for you, distress, and then come back and tackle the problem, okay? The problem that we're going to be doing today is a payroll register, a complete payroll register, okay? So it's very important that you read the instructions carefully. You're very careful on your rounding. If you're going to be using a calculator, be very careful with your rounding because that is the issue that I'm having a lot of students have. Miss, my answers are wrong. I redo the numbers and the student forgot to round or they rounded incorrectly or, they send me their work on paper and when they copy it from paper to the computer, they copy the wrong number. Just be very careful when entering your information on the system, okay? So this problem is a little bit long. I am going to be doing it in Excel because I do not like to use the calculator when I have Excel, okay? But I will show you one line item on how to use it, do it manually using a calculator, okay? But it's just a lot more efficient if you have Excel to use Excel, okay? Set it up in Excel, and then you have it ready to rock and roll. In 5 minutes, you're done, okay? So the problem states, the names of the employees of Hogan Thrift Shop are listed on the following payroll register. Employees are paid weekly. The filing status is shown on the payroll register along with each employee's weekly salary, which has remained the same all year. So every week they make the same amount. Complete the payroll register for the payroll period ending December the 20th. This is the 51st weekly pay period. The state income tax rate is 2% of the total earnings, and the city income tax rate is 1.5% of the total gross earnings, and the wage bracket method is used for federal income taxes, okay? So they've given you the payroll register, the information. What I did, I just basically copied that information over into my Excel. That way I can work with my data, okay? So the first thing we have is the name of the employee, the filing status, the total earnings. This is how much they make every week. I've inserted a column. This is not in your problem, but I have inserted it for demonstration purposes, okay? We have one employee that has made over the cap, okay? So because that one employee has gone over the cap, we need to calculate their taxable earnings. So I went ahead and I inserted a column for my OASDI taxable earnings. Remember, OASDI, as of 2022, has a cap of, let me see, it's $142,800. As of 2022, okay? So that is what we're running with, okay? We have to calculate the OASDI tax, the HI tax, federal income tax, state income tax, and city income tax, and then calculate the net pay for each of the employees, okay? What I've done is I have entered my tax rates on top for the taxes that are computable that I need to multiply a percentage by a dollar amount, okay? So OASDI, it's 6.2%, okay? Now let me highlight these, that way we know these are my tax rates. HI is 1.45%. The state income tax is 2%, that is provided in the problem. And the city income tax is 1.45%, that is also provided in the problem. Federal income tax, we're going to be using the wage bracket method, so we're going to be looking at those tables. So that is not a rate, but rather we have to use our tax tables. And that is about the only deduction that we are going to have to go to an external source to obtain that information. Now, let's look at the first employee. Okay, all of my employees make little money. Okay, and I can just, what I'm going to do, this is what I do. I say, okay, well, I know that John Matthew makes a lot of money. Okay, $28.50 a week. But what about the rest of the employees? Okay, let's look at Josie. Josie is the second employee that makes the most money, $8.90. Okay, so let me get my calculator, and I'm going to do $8.90, and I'm going to multiply it by 50 weeks, okay, because this is the 51st paycheck. So I want to know how much these employees made from the last paycheck. Okay, so I'm going to multiply it by 50. And that gives me only $44,500. So I know that if Josie only made $44,500, the rest of the employees that made less than her are not going to be even close to the cap. Okay, and remember, the OASDI cap is $142,800. Okay. Okay, so my cap is $142,800. I know that none of these employees are over the cap, so their total earnings are going to be their taxable earnings. I'm just going to copy that information over here because I know that everything that they make or they earned is going to be taxable. Now, the million-dollar question, did Matthew make more money? Okay, has Matthew gone over the cap? Well, let's look at that. Okay, let's look at Matthew. Matthew earns $28.50 a week, and let's figure out how much Matthew made before this pay period. We're looking at the 50th pay period. As of the 50th pay period, Matthew had already earned $142,500. Matthew is super close to going over the cap. Okay, so I'm going to do my calculations down here for Matthew. Okay, my year-to-date earnings before this pay period. Well, I know that Matthew makes $28.50 a week. I'm going to multiply it by 50 weeks because we are in the 51st paycheck. So I want to know how much he has made before this paycheck. Okay, and how much do we say? $142,500. Okay, $142,500. Okay, so $142,500. Okay, so that is how much Matthew has made. The cap is $142,800. So let me go ahead and I'm going to get my cap. My cap is $142,800. I know that he has already earned $142,500. Okay, I'm going to subtract my cap less my year-to-date earnings of $142,500, and that is going to get me the amount that is going to be taxable in this 51st paycheck. Okay, so even though Matthew earns $2,850, in this 51st paycheck that we're dealing with currently, Matthew is only going to pay OASDI taxes on $300, okay? On $300. Everything else, everything above that $300 is no longer taxable for OASDI purposes. So my OASDI taxable earnings for Matthew is $300, okay? So it's very important that you know that we computed that number using this calculation down here, okay? Yes, Matthew makes $28.50, but not all of it is going to be taxable. Why not, Dr. Mercado? Well, before this paycheck, before this 51st paycheck, Matthew had already earned $142,500, okay? $28.50 times 50 paychecks, that's $142,500. We know that the OASDI cap is $142,800. So that tells me that from the next paycheck, which is this 51st paycheck, only $300 will be taxed for OASDI purposes, okay? Only for OASDI purposes. For the rest of the taxes, he's paying taxes on $28.50. But for OASDI, he's only going to pay taxes on $300, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add, I want to get a total column of everything. So I'm going to add those totals down. Okay. And I'm going to run them across. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm copying my formulas across. That way I get a total for my, for each of my columns. Okay. So, and you just do the formula sum and then you highlight the columns that you want to add. Okay. So now that I've got the OASDI taxable earnings column, I can calculate my OASDI tax, okay? Now, I am going to first do it in my calculator, and I'm only going to do it in my calculator for this one employee, okay? Okay, so first we're going to do the OASDI tax, okay? So I am going to get my OASDI taxable earnings, which is $300. And I'm going to multiply it by my rate of 6.2%. And that gives me $18.60, okay? $18.60. That is the amount that you're going to enter there, okay? And you're going to be doing the same thing for the rest. 275 times 6.2%, so on and so forth, 1705, okay? I am not going to be using my calculator. It's too tedious. I'm going to put a formula, okay? So if you're familiar with Excel, we're going to enter a formula. This is the formula that I'm going to enter, okay? I'm going to make sure I take care of my rounding issue, okay? So I'm going to do equals. I'm going to do round, okay? Enter the word round, and I'm going to open parentheses, okay? Then I'm going to select the cell that I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to get my cell, which is my $300 amount. This is my OASDI taxable earnings. I'm going to get that cell, and I'm going to multiply it by my rate, whatever cells you entered on your rate and your amount. And then I'm going to do a comma, okay? And how many digits do I want to round? Well, I want to round to 2 digits, so I'm going to enter a 2. And then I'm going to close my parentheses, okay? Now, I'm not done. I'm going to copy this formula down to the rest of my employees, okay? When we copy down, our numbers or our cells shift. I want these to shift down. I want my OASDI taxable earnings to shift down for each employee, but I want my 6.2% rate to be constant. So I want the next calculation to be 275 times 6.2, 250 times 6.2, 320.25 times 6.2. So I want this number to be fixed. So I need to anchor that number, okay? So I need to locate the cell, which is P3. I'm going to anchor P3, which is this cell. I'm going to go to the front of my P3 number, and I'm going to select F4, okay? F4. What F4 does, it enters a $sign in front of the letter and a $sign in front of the number. You can either enter F4 or you can enter the $sign manually, whatever works best for you. What this is doing, it's anchoring this cell right here, okay? It's telling the formula, you know what? Multiply all of these numbers by this one constant rate, okay? By this one constant information on this one cell, okay? So I am anchoring it. That way that cell does not move. All of my calculations are going to be shifting down to these numbers, but that rate of 6.2% will be constant. Okay, so you always want to anchor the number that you don't want it to change. So if you want to multiply by 1.45, you have to anchor this cell, which will be Q3, okay? Once you're done, you just click enter, okay? And it gives you the calculation, 300 times 6.2%, okay? I'm going to go into my cell, and I'm going to get this little green box in the corner, and I'm going to drag it down, okay? And that is going to give me my OASDI taxes for all of my employees, okay? All of my employees' taxes are included there, okay? Without me having to get a calculator and do each of them, okay? Let me double check a number. Let me just do Josie so you can see that it works. Okay, Josie has $890 times 6.2%. That gives me $55.18 right there, okay? Now we're going to do HI, okay? Now for HI, we're going to be using the total earnings. HI does not have a cap. So the employees are going to pay taxes on the full amount of their earnings, okay? So I'm going to get my total earnings column. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to do round. Don't forget to do round. Okay, that way it rounds to the 2 digits. I'm going to select equals, round, open parentheses, my total earnings. I'm going to select the cell for my total earnings. I'm going to multiply by my rate of 1.45%. I'm going to do comma, 2 digits, close parentheses. Then I'm going to go back and I'm going to anchor my 1.45 column here, my cell. It's Q3. So I'm going to anchor that. I'm going to place my cursor in front of the Q, and I'm going to click F4. That is going to put the $signs so we can anchor that cell, and then I just do enter, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to get my little box in the corner, and I'm going to bring it down, okay? And then that will give me all of my rates, my HI rates for HI, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you, an example if we were to do this manually, okay? So if we were to do this manually, let's do Josie again. Josie made $890. I'm gonna multiply by 1.45%, and that gives me 12.905. If you see here, we need to round that 12.905 to 12.91. The system has already done it for you, 1291. So if you're those students that struggle with the rounding, this is a great option for you not to have that problem, okay? The computer will round it for you. Just make sure that on your formula, you put round, okay? And you instruct the computer that you want to round to 2 digits, okay? I'm going to leave federal income tax blank for now, and I'm going to skip to my state income tax, okay? I'm going to do equal, round, open parentheses, okay? And I'm going to get my total earnings, okay? Multiply it by my state income tax rate of 2%, comma, I want to round to 2 decimals, close parentheses. Now I need to anchor my rate, okay? The cell is S3, right here, S3. So I need to anchor S3, which is that cell right here, which is the one that we have in red, okay? I'm going to put my cursor in front of the S, and I'm going to select F4, okay? That will put my dollar signs in front of my letter and my number so we can anchor it, and then we do enter, okay? And then we can just select the cell and drag the formula down, okay? And this is what we get, okay? Let's do an example if we were using a calculator. Once again, let's do Josie. That would be $890, and I'm going to multiply it by 2%. And that would give me $17.80. So you see, it's the same thing as if you were using a calculator, but much faster, okay? If you put the formula in one, then you just copy it and paste it down, okay? My city income tax, once again, we're going to do equals, round, open parentheses. I'm going to select my total earnings. I'm going to multiply it by my rate provided in the problem of 1.5%, comma, I'm going to round to 2 decimals, close parentheses. I am going to anchor my rate, which is T3, okay? I'm going to enter my cursor in front of the T, and I'm going to select F4. That will enter my dollar sign so I can anchor my rate, okay? And then I just hit enter, okay? Once my formula is done, I just select the cell, get the little box in the corner, and bring it down, okay? And we're going to double check those numbers. We're going to do it for one employee. We're going to do it for Josie. Josie gets $890 a week. I'm going to multiply it by the rate of 1.5%. And that gives me $13.35, which is what I have here. Okay. So I'm just checking my numbers. That way you can see what is it that you're doing. You're basically multiplying your total earnings times the rate. Okay. Now, federal income tax. We have to use the tables. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start off with John Matthew. John earned $28.50, married, filing joint, and all of these employees get paid weekly. So we're going to be looking at the weekly tables. So let me go to my weekly tables. I'm using, once again, the Federal Income Tax Publication 15T for 2021. And this is downloadable online. And I am doing my wage brackets. I'm going to go there, okay? And we're doing the weekly payroll. And this employee earned $28.50. So I'm going to go weekly and locate it. Now, if you see, the weekly table ends in 1915 to 1925. This employee made more than that. If an employee makes more than the last amount on that table, then you have to use the percentage method, okay? You are gonna have to use the percentage method for this employee because the tier is not available. So let me go up here and let me locate the percentage table. And let's go do that for this particular employee. And we're gonna be using the weekly table. So let me go ahead and let me transfer that over here. That way we have the information. And this employee is married filing joint. So I'm just going to copy the top part. That's all I need. Married filing joint, okay? Okay, so let me do my calculation down here for Matthew, for John Matthew, okay? For Matthew, okay? So we know that Matthew earned $28.50, okay? We're going to locate Matthew on the table. Matthew is married filing joint. So let's locate Matthew, and Matthew makes $28.50. So Matthew would be in this fourth tier right here. Okay. So Matthew makes how much? $28.50. Okay. So we're gonna deduct from the $28.50 that $2,041. Okay. So we're gonna subtract, and then that's gonna give us. Let's see what that gives us. So it's $28.50 minus the $20.41. That gives me $809. That is the amount that is taxable. Then I'm going to multiply by my tax rate, which is 22%. Okay. And then that gives me times 22%. That gives me $177.98. $177.98. And then I'm going to add that number on that column C, $179.32. And let's see what that gives us. Plus 179.32. That gives me $357.30. Okay. $357.30. That is the amount of my federal income tax for Matthew. And the reason we are using the percentage method is because under the wage bracket method, that particular dollar amount that Matthew earned was above the last tier. So if it exceeds the tables, then you have to use the percentage method. So $357.30. Okay. Now the rest of my employees are not making that kind of money. They're making small change. Okay. So let's look at Jennifer Smith. Jennifer Smith earned $275 and is single. Okay. So let's go back to my wage bracket tables. And this particular, remember, we're looking at the weekly tables. This employee made $275. So let's look at the $275 right here. And remember, we always use the second number where it starts off with that number. Not where it ends, but where it starts off. Okay, so $275 and is single. So if it's single, we're going to be using this column, this last set of columns, the first number. So that would be $275. That would be $4 right there. $4 of federal income tax. Okay, so we have $4. We're going to put that right there. Okay. Catherine made $250, married filing joint. Okay, $250, married filing joint. So we're looking at $250. $250 falls between $245 and $255. Married filing joint. My standard deduction will be $0. Okay. So $0 for Catherine. Okay. Mary Matthews made $320.25 and is single. Okay, so let's go back to the table. $320.25. So we're going to be looking at this tier right here. And Mary is single. So we're going to run our number across. And that is going to give us $8 right there. $8. So remember, she makes $320.25. That's that first line right there. It's $8 because she is single. Okay. Then we have Bonnie. Bonnie makes $450. Okay. So let's go look at $450. And Bonnie is single as well. So $450 for Bonnie. That is this second to the last tier right here. Single. We're going to run our numbers across. And that's going to give me $21. $21 right there. $21 for Bonnie. Okay. Then we've got Sean Camp. Makes $560.50. Okay. Is single as well. So let's go back to our tables. $560. So we're going to be looking at that last tier right here in this section, between 555 and 565. And this particular employee is single, so we're going to run our number, and that will give us $34. $34 right here, okay? So it's just locating the table, the tier, and then running your number across, okay? Helen made $475.50 and is single. $475.50, it's going to be this tier right here, and is single. So we're going to run our number across, and that is going to give us $25. $25. Okay. And then last but not least, we've got Josie. Josie is married, filing joint, and makes $890. Okay. $890 for Josie. Okay. So we're going to be looking at this tier right here, $890. And Josie is married, filing joint. So we're going to be looking at $41 right here. So we're looking at the tier between $885 and $895. Okay. And that gives us $41 of federal income tax. Okay. So we've got all of our taxes computed. Now I can get my net pay. Okay. How are we going to get our net pay? We're going to go ahead and we're going to do an equals. Okay. I'm going to get my total earnings minus my OASDI tax, minus my HI tax, minus my federal income tax, minus my state income tax, minus my city income tax. Okay. And that gives me $2,333.02. Okay. Once I have that formula entered, I just run it down. Okay. So this is the same thing as if you were doing it in the calculator. Let's do it for Josie. Josie makes $890. We're going to subtract $55.18 for OASDI, $12.91 for HI, $41 for federal income tax, $17.80 for state income tax, minus $13.35 for city income tax. That gives me $749.76. So instead of running the risk of entering a number incorrectly in my calculator, I just do the formula within my Excel document. Okay. So this is how much my employees are going to take home after all deductions. Okay. That is the first part of the problem. The second part is to compute the employer's FICA taxes for the pay period ending December the 20th. Okay. So we have our OASDI taxes and our HI taxes. Okay. So because I entered this column right here that was not included originally in my payroll register, I just included it so I could illustrate to you the reason why we got that $300 here. All of the rest of my employees did not go over the cap. The only one that did was Matthew. So we calculated that for this 51 paycheck, only $300 out of the $2,850 would be taxed for OASDI tax purposes. Okay. Now, we have to calculate the employer's taxes. Okay. So, what is my OASDI taxable earnings for the employer? For the employer, it's going to be that $35,21.25. Okay. How much is taxable? For purposes of my employee and my employers, okay, the same amount will be taxable. Okay, only $300 will be taxable for Matthew. Everybody else, everything will be taxable. So the amount of my taxable earnings for OASDI will be $35,21.25. My taxes are going to be, I'm going to get my $35,21.25 and I'm going to multiply by 6.2%. Okay, and that gives me $218.32. Okay, so it's the amount of your taxable earnings times 6.2%, and that gives you $218.32. Let's do that in the calculator. So it's your $35,21.25. That is my OASDI taxable earnings times 6.2%. That gives me $218.317. Okay, we're going to round that up to 0.32. Okay. For my HI taxes, everything is taxable. Okay, the whole $6,071.25 is taxable. Remember, we don't have a cap for HI. Okay, everything will be taxable for HI purposes. Okay, so I'm going to get my HI taxable earnings. times 1.45%. And that's going to give me $88.03. Okay, so let me get my calculator. 6,071.25. This is my total earnings. Okay, times 1.45%. And that gives me 88.033, which is rounded to 88.03. Okay, so this is the completed payroll register. The only issue is, depending on the problem that you get, I'm more than sure that one of your employees is going to go over the cap. So you need to be able to figure out the employee that's going over the cap and then identifying what portion of the payroll for this paycheck is going to be taxed. Okay. And remember, look at the cap and compare it to your year-to-date earnings as of the last paycheck. So in this case, we are currently in the 51st paycheck. So we want to compute our year-to-date earnings as of the 50th paycheck. Okay. And you can select to do it in Excel, or if you want to do all of these calculations by hand in a calculator in your phone, that is up to you. I just do it this way. It's a lot faster, a lot easier, and a lot more accurate. Okay. Just remember to use your formulas, the round formula, and make sure that if you want to copy your formulas down, that you anchor that cell that is your rate. That cell needs to stay constant, so make sure that you anchor it by putting your cursor in front of the cell and then pressing F4. Okay. So that is basically it. Make sure that you are using the correct tables. Like I said, I recommend that you download Publication 15T for the year 2021. It's online. It's available to you. That way it's just easier for you to use. And we are using number 2 and we are using number 4. Okay. So just make sure that that information is available to you. And that is basically it for this problem. Be very careful in your calculations, in your rounding, and best of luck. Okay, see you next time. Thank you very much.